Arthur Liberty opened his shop in 1875, 150 years ago, and he had just 3 employees, and one of them was a woman. Textiles were his main stock, and textiles would remain the most important stock for Liberty. And women were involved in that field. Liberty bought designs from various designers from the early days.
I'm Sarah Campbell, textile designer, and I worked at Liberty from the mid-60s till about 1975-6. I love the rhythm of pattern. I love the challenge of making a painting make a repeat, and the repeat be interesting and enduring. I love manipulating colours. I love all the constraints of printing, as it was in those days. Well, I do always wonder about what makes design successful, and I think that design speaks to the ordinary person. You can have a garden like this, and probably your garden does look a bit like this, and it's a very informal pattern, and unlike Morris and a lot of other arranged nature patterns, as I think of them, this looks unarranged. It looks higgledy-piggledy, and the seeds have just fallen where you've thrown them. It was not my ambition to be a textile designer, but it turns out that I was good at it.
Hi, my name's Polly Mason and I'm Head of Design at Liberty. I cover the seasonal and the classic fashion fabric collections. I really love this idea of being able to tell a story through fabric and through pattern. The kind of history and the research that goes into a final print is really crucial. That idea of concept is really an important part to kind of inspire me to create design. So that bit for me always comes first. And then that kind of just roughly building up this idea of elements and what you're going to include, thinking about technique and colour. For me in the design process, I still have a very hands-on, tactile sort of start to any process of designing, and drawing is the very beginning element of that. And I might map out a design in very loose sort of marks with the pencil, even sometimes just with my finger, to kind of understand the flow of the repeat across the design and how it'll end up on the fabric.
My name is Nisha Crossland. I'm a textile and surface print designer. There are 3 things which are really, really key and really, really challenging. The first one is repeat, the repeat of the motif. And the repeat, for me, is really important because it gives the pattern its rhythm, if you like. The second thing is scale. Scale for me is a bit like sound in music. You know, you just think if you have a sort of big, bold, large scale pattern, it's going to sound sort of loud and dramatic, if you like, visually. And then if it's a small little repeat, it's going to be on low volume. It's kind of just like a little hum. And then the third thing that's really important and interesting is colour. And with pattern, you produce more than one colourway. So what I'm trying to do when I'm colouring is create different moods.
My name's Natalie Gibson. I'm a textile designer and I teach at Central St Martin's in the fashion department. I just love doing it. I like putting things together. I love putting colours together. When it works, it's such a good feeling. If you think you've done something good, you want to go and show someone, what do you think? What do you think of this? That's the thing about working on your own. If you're upstairs doing a painting, you want to go out in the street and say, what do you think? Colour is like prime. It's so important. I love colour. I couldn't do without it. Don't want to be drowned in beige, as they say. I like putting colours together. The brighter, the better. I mean, students always think, oh, I can't do that. It's too much. I think, too much? What does that mean, too much?
The archive at Liberty is a fantastic archive for looking at fabrics. It's not quite so good for records. They didn't tend to keep the records, and so we don't actually know who most of the designers were in the early days. It's not until the 20s and 30s that those names become slightly more known. So the Glaswegian designer Jesse M. King did textile designs for Liberty as well as for his silverware, and for his needlework department he got another Glaswegian designer, Anne Macbeth, to do designs, so women could go into the shop and buy all these marvelous avant-garde designs. In the 20s and 30s, we start to have the names of women designers. People like rather mysterious Mrs. Stoneleigh. We know very little about her, but she designed some of the most important dress fabrics for Liberty, which are still in production today.
I sold quite a few designs to Liberty, which was always exciting. If you're a freelance designer, quite often you don't know what happens to your design. So in that respect, it was very nice to work for Liberty's, because you saw you saw what happened to your design. It was such a lovely shop anyway. It was a bit of a privilege.
It was a big deal, for kind of two main reasons. One, of course, the legacy of the store, and as a young person, William Morris and the arts and crafts was one of the things that got me started on being interested in pattern. And you often found, well, as I did, it was thanks to being in Liberty's, which gave me some sort of credibility, I then got orders from international stores. So it was incredibly important.
Liberty has had many female designers that they've bought from over the years, but I think one of the most significant ones is Colleen Farr, who's rather a forgotten name, but was a very influential, very important woman, because she was the one who set up the in-house design studio for Liberty. She went on, after she left Liberty, to train young textile designers at Central School of Art and Design, so she had an even more important influence after that, and many of those designers would come to work at Liberty. Liberty had their textiles printed in many different places. Most of the silks were printed at a printworks on the River Wandle, and it was a very small printworks called Merton Abbey, and it was just upriver from William Morris's works, and they kept the printworks there until 1972.
Merton Printworks was a wonderful place. The whole thing was lovely. Big wooden and brick sheds. It was a lovely place to go and see the work and see the silks being hoisted up into the ceiling when they were printed, and the men doing their screen printing there. The Friday meetings, design meetings, were there. So the chairman would come down every Friday with Mrs. Borland, his consultant, and Susan would go, and I would occasionally go. And that's where everything was discussed and decided upon, and the studio was there. It was a wonderful hive of work and design and colour.
Arthur Liberty was interviewed in 1885, and at that point he said that women made up half his workforce, around about 300 people, and so the women were very much part of Liberty's enterprise, and still are.
So I started working at Liberty's, I would say in the 1980s. I had just come over from the Caribbean, Trinidad, and I was just looking for a job, a part-time job. I was working at the London College of Fashion, or studying there, and walked into Liberty one day, asked the right people, and started to work. So our Liberty customers use fabrics for various things. You can make dresses, you can make blouses, you can make skirts, evening wear. My favorite pattern is by a lady called Althea McNeish, and the fabric is what I'm wearing. It's called Sabella, and she was also a Trinidadian designer.
I think really the main key element of a Liberty design is that attention to detail, while kind of honouring Liberty's heritage and its history and all the sort of previous design handwritings that have come in the past. It's about also looking to the future and continuing to push design boundaries and be innovative where we can in design. It's something that our founder, Arthur Liberty, found really important. It was a big part of how he worked, and so we want to kind of continue that as we move forward into the next chapter of Liberty's design history.